Hi guys, what is up? Welcome back. Almost said to ride with me then. We've actually changed the channel name, so it's just me, Dan Latham. Today you join me in a brand new Mini 1.5 turbo sport pack. So effectively this thing looks a little bit like a JCW, but it's not. It's the 1.5 turbo 3-cylinder with 136 horsepower. This is kind of the middle of the road car. The entry-level Mini 1 starts with 102 horsepower, I believe. Same engine, just a slightly detuned version. Now you've got this version in the Cooper, and then of course you've got the Cooper S, which has the 4-cylinder, which bumps it up by about 30 horsepower, and then you can get the actual full-fat JCW, which is even more power again, and that one's really fiery. Now, of course, this pretty much shares the platform with the BMW 1 Series these days. I have driven a new 1 Series, and it is very similar to this in many ways. Prices start from just over £17,000. This one I've got here with the JCW-ish pack and kind of a few extras is around 22,000, and I don't think that really represents too bad value, to be honest. It is still very mini. You may know my girlfriend has a 2007 Mini 1 with some JCW kit on it as well, so this is effectively just a new version of that. And everything in here is very familiar, the sort of the vents, the layout, the door handles and the layout of the doors. It's all very, very familiar, just kind of modernised. You now get all the modern luxuries, such as a nice infotainment screen, which actually, the colours are phenomenal on that thing. It's a glossy display, but it looks almost OLED in quality. It's very sharp contrast. And then you've got in front of me a smaller display with what looks like a digital dial, but it is actually a physical dial, just kind of dressed up to look like part of the screen, which is quite interesting really. And it's a matte finish. It does look a little bit odd in comparison to the other screen. It doesn't look anywhere near as sharp. And in actual fact, it is offset slightly wonky because of the way that the kind of curvature of the dashboard in this really deep dashboard that goes out on the curved front window, much like the sort of traditional Mini design. You end up with this kind of odd angle on the instrument cluster in front of you. It looks like it's just been put on wonky, which I really don't like, but I get why they've done it. But it just makes it look like either the steering wheel's out of alignment or you're just not looking quite straight, which is a very, very odd sensation actually. But it does display all the information you need it to, and when you change the drive modes using the lovely toggles that you normally get in these Minis, it does display in the green mode, for example, how much extra range it thinks that you've gathered by being eco-friendly, which I think is actually quite a nice touch. What I've always loved about the Mini is the styling. Now, it's a very distinct style, and I would almost put it as a fashion accessory. It's one of those cars where you buy it because it's that little bit different. Kind of in the same class as that retro chic Fiat 500, but this one comes with a bit less of the "my mummy and daddy bought me this car" stigma. As for the exterior, I really quite like it. I'm still not too convinced about the front end of these newest facelift versions. On this JCW pack, you do get all the jazzy bits that makes it look like more than it is. You've got JCW badges on the steering wheel. You've got one behind me on these lovely bucket seats. These are the standard JCW style bucket seats that you get with a little bit of sort of micro suede Alcantara near the top, but nothing too flash. The leather ones are a bit of a nicer option, but obviously you're going to be paying the premium for that. But you get the exterior body kit as well. You get kind of the rear diffuser, and you get a few bits on the front end as well, sort of like almost like a splitter with some nice grills. And a lot of it is fakery. A lot of the grills are fakery, but it does jazz it up. I just have to ask, is it a little bit too much? You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, this 1.5 turbo is really potent, and actually it feels a lot quicker than it is. If you told me that this was an engine that had 150, 160 horsepower, I'd probably believe you actually. And being a Mini, based on that BMW chassis as well, it's got the big chunky BMW style wheel, and it's really, really tight in the turns. It's got such a nice weight to the steering, and I think you could really have some fun with it. It's damped okay. It's quite a harsh ride if you're not used to it, but I'm sure you'd be fine. It's definitely much better than Lucy's old Mini 1, which I think is just a bit of a crash bang horror situation. This is more suited to day-to-day driving, definitely. You can, on the really high-end cars as well, the JCWs, get the adaptive dampers, which I think are always a good option to have in these hot hatches. But yeah, this one's potent enough really. Like, I'm pleasantly surprised, even coming from the Cupra and jumping in this, I'm pleasantly surprised at how quick this feels. I mean, if I sort of put my foot down, it takes a second to kick in and think about it, but it still has some pickup, and it sounds okay with that 3-cylinder thrum as well. The one I've got here has got the 8-speed automatic, which you'll be familiar with from other BMWs, but it's actually okay. It's a little bit of a clunky box in very slow traffic, but it's nowhere near as hesitant as the DSG that I'm used to. And the changes, the only thing that really gets me is the kickdown. The kickdown isn't quite what I'd like it to be, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I'm thoroughly impressed with how well it picks up, and it makes me excited to drive a full-fledged Cooper S or JCW. I've got to say, I'm just sitting in traffic at the moment. Inside the cabin, it is actually quite well kind of sealed. Like the noise insulation is better than you might expect it to be. And I tell you what, the only thing that really I don't like about the kind of the noise in the cabin is the tyres. There is a bit of tyre roar, especially at higher speeds, but besides that, no real gripes with that at all. It feels quite solid and well built, quite well put together. There's no creaks or rattles in here. Everything feels quite nice. And that central infotainment, it's obviously been well upgraded over previous generations. The downside of it is that it's got a bit of lag between transitions, which I'll show you now. But the plus side is it is effectively BMW iDrive, which is a great system as we know. And not only can you control it from the touchscreen, but you can control it from the kind of iDrive-esque system down below, which means that you do have that versatility to use it on the move much easier than in cars that just have exclusively touchscreens. Let's get it chucked into this bend a little bit. Yeah, it picks up nicely. And it really sticks well as well. There's a bit of texture for the steering, which I like. It's not obviously as much as with an older hydraulic system, but it's not bad for a modern car by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely better feel than what I have in my Cupra. I do really like these seats actually. I prefer these to the ones that I've got in the Cupra. I know I'm comparing it to that car a lot, but you know, that's proper hot hatch territory. And this is 10 grand cheaper and nowhere near as fast, but it still provides quite a lot of that package. I really love the touches on the interior, like you've got the old flight switch controls as you do normally. I particularly like that the start-stop switch is right in the middle with a big red button. That's really cool. And then up the top, you've got another aeroplane-style switch, which controls the ambient lighting, just cycles through the colours on the interior, which I think is really good because in most modern cars, you have to go through all of the infotainment to be able to do that. It's not going to set your hair on fire, but it's nippy for round town use, and it returns decent economy as well. Being one of these small economical engines, very similar to what they put in like the new Fiestas and stuff like that. I've been returning over 35 mile per gallon round town, and it's only going to get better than that on a run. So to be honest, you're winning. And of course, another thing I really like about the modern Minis is the lighting. It just looks very premium. You've got the Union Jack style LED rear tail lights, which look amazing. Even during the day as running lights, they look great. And then you've got the front daytime running lights, so the sort of the halo ring around the whole headlamp, and that changes to the indicator when that's on. So there's no kind of silly extra light. It just transitions between white and amber. And I think it looks really modern, really classy, especially in black. I think these look amazing in black, but I've got to say the red paint on this particular car does show off the black styling pack quite well. Yeah, I would say after spending some time in this, the only thing that handles a little bit better is probably a Ford Fiesta. And would I actually accept the trade-offs of the Ford for just a bit of better handling? I don't think so, because this is still firm enough to feel solid in the corners, but then it doesn't feel too firm that you can't live with it day to day. I feel as though it's a good compromise really, actually, especially just as a daily, even if you go for this 1.5 turbo as opposed to one of the more hot versions. In terms of cabin space, it's actually not too bad. I mean, I'm 6 foot and you can see like I've got plenty of headroom in the front, and my seat's nowhere near adjusted all the way down either. A rear space, okay. I mean, it's not going to be great for adults on long journeys. Of course, there is now an option for a 5-door Mini, which I don't think looks as good. But you've also got to consider the fact that the boot space in this is a little bit lesser in its class. I mean, for example, my mum's just bought a Peugeot 208, the new shape one, and that has more space than this does in the back, but not by too much, and it does have an adjustable boot floor, so there is some practicality there. But again, it's a small trade-off to pay for the Mini package. I think it's a fashion piece, isn't it? It's a style icon. It's a bit of retro kit, but modernised for today's era. The touches of lighting on this interior and just the little quirks and features that have been present in Minis for many years, they still hold on to the heritage of their design whilst modernising in a really classy way. And every time I see one, I think it looks more expensive than it actually is, and that's not a bad thing at all. And the fact that I jump in this and I immediately feel BMW, that's a good thing in my opinion. I mean, could you get slightly better value with the rivals? Maybe. Would I recommend going up to the more hot version? Well, if you're looking to drive pretty quickly, then yeah, I would recommend a proper JCW or a Cooper S. But if you're going to pot around town, this is perfectly nippy enough, and it's still going to get you out of those difficult situations. I always think there's something to be said for cars that are a bit too slow. Not even from like a point of I like driving fast cars, because I think a car can be too fast as well. But I think it's good to just have enough power to get out of a junction in a hurry should you find yourself in a bit of a sticky situation. And this definitely has that. Overall then, interior comfort I'm really pleased with, especially compared to its rivals in this class. I don't think that anything can beat these seats really, if you don't mind something a little bit on the firmer side, a more supportive side. The one gripe I really have with the interior, and this is probably me being a little bit picky, but I can't stand it, and I think it's a real design flaw, is this handbrake. Now, it's a manual handbrake, which fine, I don't mind that, that's not a problem at all. The problem is this armrest gets in the way of it. If you try and put the armrest all the way down whilst the handbrake is up, you can't do it. And if you try and pull the handbrake all the way up when the armrest is down in the most comfortable position, it won't go. You have to move the armrest back. And I think that's, and you have to reach around it as well to get to the handbrake if it's down. It's just really badly thought out, and I don't understand how anyone gave it the okay, to be honest. But, you know, that's me being relatively picky. So there we go, guys. That is a bit of a rundown of the brand new Mini Cooper with the JCW pack. Now, I know it's not been a proper full review, and I'm sorry it couldn't be longer and more in depth, but I've only got the car for an hour or so, and I've just had to kind of get some impressions of it first before I've actually committed to chatting to you guys about it. But I just wanted to give you some kind of real world driving experience and my thoughts on the car as a younger driver perspective, and also someone who tends to drive hot hatches and other cars in this segment quite regularly. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Please leave a comment below what you think of the Mini, or if you've got any feedback for me about the video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.